This next one was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Steve in Toledo. I have always been curious as to if Danny Davis was ever salty about the fact that the average pro wrestling fan equates his name more with WWE referee gimmick wrestler than with him. Considering the impact he's had on the business over the last 30 plus years, I think that would be kind of annoying.
Okay, I'd think that'd be kind of a flat ending to the question. I never heard my Danny Davis mention the other Danny Davis's name. I'm sure at the time that they were both in, because remember the WWF Danny Davis, and I guess for the younger listeners, Danny Davis was a referee in the WWF from what, like 85 to early 90s, that period. I could be off a year or two either way. He apparently went to the military school that Vince went to. He went to school with Vince, and he had been on the ring crew before he refereed. This was before I got there, but just going by what I was told. And then they decided to make him a lot of the ring crew guys became referees, and then they decided to make him we'll do the things they did. He was a heel referee, and he was with this guy and that guy, whatever the fuck. And the reason why, and I don't know the veracity of this, but the reason I always heard that he was employed in the wrestling business or with the WWF is because when he and Vince were in school, he took the fucking bump for something that Vince did, and they got caught, and he took the rap for it. And that was just locker room gossip. Who knows? But you know how Vince is, so it's not like it's hard to believe.
You take the bump for me. You save the burning tapes. You'll have jobs for life.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, he's a nice guy, and I've met him a number of times, been around him. He's a nice guy. And that's his name. Apparently, I guess, Danny Davis, my Danny Davis, the Nightmare, the OVW Danny Davis, his real last name is Briley, Danny Briley. But honestly, that was kind of a bleh name in wrestling. And when he first started, I don't know whether he had any input in this or not, but they called him Danny Davis after his first couple of, matches where he did jobs on TV. And in Tennessee, Danny Davis was a big country music star with Danny Davis and the Nashville Brass back in the 50s and 60s. Maybe that's where it came from. I don't think that he was salty for a number of reasons. Number one, you got to remember that Danny, he worked Memphis, he worked Continental, and he worked Calgary. And the territories that he worked, not only the other Danny Davis never really appeared anywhere except the WWF. And the only time that he was really on widespread national TV was the last few years of the 80s when Vince spread out everywhere. But if you ask the wrestling fans in the Continental Territory or the Memphis Territory, or like I said, he spent several different runs in Calgary, they knew Nightmare Danny Davis as the Danny Davis. And the WWF fans knew Danny Davis, the referee, as Danny Davis. It wasn't a big deal. It's just now, in retrospect and in hindsight, with people who weren't there and who are covering all of the world of wrestling, reading historical things, it's confusing because there was two guys with the same name. It wasn't really at the time. There was clear separation between the two. Also, my Danny Davis doesn't give two shits or a French fried titty fuck if he ever is on television ever again, if he ever signs an autograph again, if anybody ever recognizes, he don't give a shit. The only time we used to have to really talk nice to him, I did, to get him to come out on OVW television. As like the big climactic blow-off loser leave town match with Doug Basham against the Damager. Right at the end of that, there had to be, for the story, for the product, there had to be reconciliation between Doug Basham and his uncle Danny Davis. So Danny came out and hugged Doug, and the place stood up and there were people crying. Or he would appear if there was a big charity function when we do the Crusade fundraisers, but he didn't want to be on his own TV. And what was it? Early 2000s, when He got the developmental deal with TNA when they still had some money, and they were doing that gut check thing. Because he was training, they brought him down to Florida. That's the only time Danny's been on television in the last fucking 25 or 30 years, besides anything on OVW, he was one of the judges in the gut check thing. And I talked to him one time. I said, what the fuck did they do to get you to go to Florida and agree to be on TV? And he said, well, they're paying me a lot of fucking money. And that's part of it. He didn't want to be on TV. Once he was retired and out of the ring, he was not glory happy in any respect. He could have easily, look at all the people that have done fan fests and conventions and signings. He could have been doing all that stuff for the last 20 years or whatever. It's not that he doesn't like the fans or that he doesn't like the boys, but that's, that part of his career he's done with. Danny Davis in Continental was the forerunner of guys who made a fortune on gimmicks. Especially with the Nightmare when he was a babyface with the mask deal or the stars, the makeup. He had his wife at the time would sew masks for the kids, and he'd sell autographed pictures and posters and everything in the world. And he made 4 times on gimmicks what he made wrestling in Continental during that time. But he's not interested in being a public figure anymore. He's always been happy doing what he was doing after he retired from the ring. So I seriously don't think he's lost any sleep over it.
Did you see recently that Memphis wrestler Ken Raper passed away?
Yes, the man with the unfortunate last name. Actually, I didn't even realize that during the late 80s, he got a run as an Indian in Puerto Rico. What was he, Chief War Eagle or something like that?
I didn't realize that either. No.
It was in his obituary. But Ken Raper was another way. He was a local guy in Memphis, and he wrestled on and off for probably 8 or 10 years, mostly on TV Saturday mornings. He got that one little thing where he and Robert Reed, who was another job guy who took over for me doing the photography when I left the territory. Robert Reed and Sam Lowe filled in that spot. They won the World Tag Team title from the Assassins, Roger Smith and Donnie Bass, one morning on TV because the Fabulous Ones helped them. And that was seen as the ultimate in embarrassment when a job guy would beat an established guy. Now it happens on TV every week. And then, of course, they brought it back at the Coliseum on Monday night, and the Assassins kicked shit out of Reed and Raper and won the belts back, and then had their match with the with the Fabulous Ones, and did another angle to keep that program going. And I think he was a member of the King's Army, the softball team. Lawler had a softball team. He just quit, apparently, playing softball with his final season. He's had a softball team Lawler has in Memphis since the 70s. And Ken was on that for quite a long time, and just a nice guy. I'm not going to say that he could have particularly gone a lot farther had he gone anywhere else. He'd had the little run in Puerto Rico. Let's face it, that was a time where that territory was in need of talent. But he was a good guy, and I guess he was 65. I can't believe he's older than me, but I guess he was, now that I think about it.